After discovering the secrets of Vault-Tec University, which I'll cover in an upcoming video, we can pass through one of the many doors to head back outside. As soon as we do...
Heads up, responders. The food processing machines at Mama Dolces have finally cooled down enough to work again. I've set them up to make cans of stew using the ingredient containers spread around the factory. Well, the machines make a hell of a racket, so you'll probably get some unwanted guests.
The wonders of Robco technology pick up a broadcast from the nearby Mama Dolces food processing factory. We find the factory just west of Vault-Tec University on the other side of the river. I didn't want to bother finding a road, so swimming across, we round the northern side of the building to enter. But here we find hostile Protectrons.
To authority.
When the Protectrons are dead, we can head through the door in the eastern wall. This was deliveries. Facing south, we can enter the factory. And here we find Liberator robots. What are the communist Chinese Liberator robots doing here? We last saw them at Vault 76. Sounds like the responders were working on getting the food processing plant back up and functioning in order to feed the people of West Virginia. The responders may be gone, but we still eat food. So working with nearby fellow vault dwellers, we need to run around the factory to find meat-flavored soy chunks, dehydrated beef stock, and diced vegetable mix that we can add to the hopper to produce some canned food. And here we find what appears to be a manager's office, bedecked in pre-war American flags. Here we find Manager Smith's terminal. We'll come back to read this in a minute, but first we gotta find all of this beef stock. In his office we find a bathroom with a rad roach we can hack to death. And there's a first aid kit on the ground with chems. Turning around, we find a radaway on a nearby filing cabinet, but we don't find any of that beef stock. Heading back to the factory floor, and we find the ingredient hopper right across from a terminal. Turning around, we find our first component on a nearby shelf, some dehydrated beef stock. Nearby is a tool case, and across from this is a supply closet with a couple of containers including a weapon mod on a shelf, a first aid kit, and a cooler. It seems like our fellow vault dwellers have looted most of the components on this ground floor. We do find a staircase in the middle of the factory that we can take up to the second floor. Here we find a floating pod. Inside we see a bunch of locker rooms. In one we find some meat-flavored soy chunks, boiled water in another, and more doggone blasted Liberator robots. This pod connects to another manager's terminal. Near to a couch we find more of these soy products, and on the desk next to the terminal is a red manager's keycard. I wonder what this is for. We'll figure it out in a bit. That's it for this floating second level. So turning around, we can head out a door to the west. This brings us to a staircase that leads to the roof. But on the roof, we don't find much. We do find a skeleton next to a chem cooler and a red toolbox, but that's it. So we can head back to the hopper and deposit the ingredients that we found. Our event quest log updates, but we haven't found enough. Thankfully, these products will respawn, so we just need to run around the factory floor, checking the conveyor belts and every nook and cranny until we find everything we need. Once the hopper is full of meat, we can turn around and use the nearby terminal to activate the food processing machinery. Mama Dolce's food processing plant, an all-American business, food processing control terminal. Read this first. To whom it may concern, I recommend not wasting your time on these food processing machines. I've got a master's degree in mechanical engineering and I couldn't make them work for more than a few minutes at a time before they overheated and shut down. If you do manage to get this place running, you're probably going to wake up every mutant and monster within a square mile, so be ready for that. Sanjay. Sanjay from the responders laying down wisdom. But some processed meat sounds good to me, so we'll ignore his advice for now. In the next one, check machine status, we see that the hopper is fully loaded, and so back out to the main menu we can choose the final option to activate the food processing machines. And as soon as we do, the processing meat attracts the attention of a group of mole rats. So there are 3 food processing machines, and the monsters will try to attack and destroy each of them. To complete this quest and retrieve our stock of meat, we have to guard these machines through wave after wave of enemy combat. It was machine number 2 that bore the brunt of the last attack. Soon, machine number 1 gets attacked by more mole rats. But then we hear an alarm. There's some sort of mechanical failure. Heading over to the terminal, we can run a diagnostic routine. Fault detected. Circuit overload caused fuse failure. Please reset circuit breaker. Thankfully, one of our fellow vault dwellers found the circuit breaker while we were reading the terminal. They repaired the issue, but just then, the machines got attacked by a pack of feral ghouls. Many of these enemies appear to be coming out of the western door. Figured I might as well put down a frag mine. And just then, more feral ghouls stormed through that very door. But then, another mechanical failure. Back to the terminal, we can run a diagnostic. Fault detected. Water pressure exceeds safe tolerance. Use safety valve. Thankfully, one of my fellow vault dwellers released the valve, but it's easy to find. It's right here in the middle of the room. Immediately after releasing the valve, we get attacked by another wave. More feral ghouls. And not a moment later, we get attacked by a final wave. If we defend the machines long enough to process the meat, we complete the event, Feed the People. And as a reward, we get 3 diluted stim packs, 37 rounds of 38 caliber ammunition, the healing salve recipe, 4 cans of canned dog food, yummy, and some funnel cake. With the event over, we can finally spend some time reading these terminals. Heading into the manager's office, we have to hack into Manager Smith's terminal. Inside, we find 4 entries. User login, Foreman Smith. New employee orientation. Greetings, new employee. We would like to welcome you as the newest family member of the greatest food processing plant in America. Follow these simple rules carefully, and we are sure to become productive and prosperous members of this great American society together. Wow, they're really laying that patriotism on thick. Number 1. Here at Mama Dolces, we like to say that we are an all-American business. This means that we uphold the values and traditions of this great American society at all costs. The generous civilians of the American city of Morgantown have greeted the Mama Dolces family with open arms, and we repay them by succeeding in our mission to produce high-quality processed food products at low prices. Number 2, productivity is the key to success and individual wealth. In this American capitalist society, we work long hours for no overtime pay in order to bring prosperity to our great company. Remember, success for Mama Dolces means great personal wealth for you and your family. That didn't read very sincere from someone who truly believes in capitalism. In the next one, as with all other American businesses, we have a very strict hierarchical organization. You are strongly encouraged to stick to your workstations and not question the leadership decisions of your superiors. Your superiors have only your best interests in mind, so interfering with their decision-making processes will only make them question your loyalty. Most importantly, do not attempt to inspect or repair equipment on the exterior of the facility. Only qualified repair technicians are permitted to inspect the exterior equipment in order to minimize legal liability. Violation of this rule is grounds for immediate termination. Thank you for your attention and understanding. Plant Manager John Smith. So they didn't want their employees tinkering with equipment on the outside. I wonder why. In the next one, quarterly focus test results. Product focus testing results for Q3 2077. Product, the all-new sweet and sour stroganoff. Same great stroganoff product with 100% more sweet flavor. Results. Sample group found flavor and consistency of product to be lacking. Many felt ill within 24 hours after consuming product. 78% of the testers questioned the need for more sweetness in our product. Recommendation: high-level concept needs more analysis to determine if consumer acceptance will be insurmountable barrier. Yeah, maybe just not make stroganoff sweet or sour. It's a savory. Come on. And in the final one, Human Resources Memo. HR Manager Mary Baker, Mama Dolce's full-time employees. Please join Plant Manager John Smith and I in welcoming our most recent group of hires to the Mama Dolce's family. They will all be joining the team at the food processing plant in Morgantown. Please give them a big Appalachian welcome when you see them around. Lincoln Jones, Manufacturing Hygiene Technician. Jack White, Senior Maintenance Technician. John Johnson, Full-Time Security Officer. What's with these names? Will Harris, Processing Machine Operator, Night Shift. What, did everyone they hire give the company fake IDs or something? At the bottom, we can unlock a safe from this terminal. Let's see, where is it? It's not under the desk. Ah, there it is, in the corner. Here we can get some shotgun shells. We found a short pump action shotgun, pretty decent. A gold pocket watch and some pre-war money. Now, I want to know why they didn't want their employees exploring outside. Heading outside, we can go around the perimeter. Nothing next to the Nuka-Cola machine. This machine seems to be rather innocuous. Looks like some of the Mama Dolce's Protectrons are still walking around and hostile. We gotta put this guy out of his misery. We can walk around to the eastern side where we entered, nothing over here. Moving east towards the river, we find a ramp that allows us to climb atop some nearby pipes, which at one time funneled waste from the factory into the Morgantown River. Here we find another Protectron. Pipes to the river. I wonder. Hopping down, we can peer into one of these pipes. Wait, what's that? Is that a Chinese robot? What's it doing there? We don't see an opening on this side. Heading to the other, we find another pipe. Hey there, buddy, hanging out? You want some company? Moving to the far end, we find another ramp. We see that the pipe goes directly into the factory, but there's no door, no hatch. How do we get inside? Climbing the ramp. Oh, look at that! A hole in the pipe on the opposite end. Creeping inside, we can get rid of the Liberator. And here we find a door, locked by an ID card reader. If we found the Mama Dolce's manager ID card on the desk at the top of the factory, we can use it to open the door. Oh, okay. Looks like they need to work on that animation. Well, it is the bit after all. Creeping inside, we find a door that leads to the Fujinia intelligence base. We arrive in a pipe. At the very end of this pipe, we find a hatch that leads inside the base. But as soon as we open the hatch, we get attacked by ceiling-mounted turrets. God, and my guns keep breaking. We arrive on a top level. We see a staircase leading down and two doors, one to the north and one to the south. Opening the northern door first, we find a small office. We can loot a frag mine at the bottom of a shelf, a box of 38 rounds, and a Chinese officer's sword. It's official. We've stumbled upon a pre-war communist Chinese base on American soil. This should not be surprising for those who watched my video on the Mama Dolce's factory from Fallout 3. You can find out exactly what their plans were in the Capital Wasteland by watching that video here. On a wall above this is a first aid kit. Turning south, we see a button. We'll tag this in a minute. And below it is a security terminal. After hacking it, we have to leave the terminal because we get attacked by more Liberator robots. Thankfully, they go down pretty quickly. One shot from my 44 and I wasn't even hidden. Not too shabby. Back to the terminal. Display setting English/US. Fujinia Intelligence Base. Security Station. Hail the People's Republic. In the first one, notice to all personnel. we have been placed in an unenviable situation. As you all know, we were given no warning prior to the bombs touching down. We can only presume that this means one thing: the party leaders are all dead, and we are now functioning independently. Some of you have suggested this means we can now abandon our posts, that the fight is over and we have lost. For those of you who feel this way, we pity your lack of belief in our purpose, but we will not attempt to stop you from fleeing. Instead, let us say simply this: we are far behind enemy lines. If our party leadership is truly dead, any attempt to return home would be an utterly futile exercise. If they're not, and if they do reach out to us, you will be long gone, trying to cross thousands of miles of hostile territory. Your best chance of survival is to remain here, where we can work together and be prepared should the time come that we can evacuate properly. Director. This is fascinating. It tells us that the Chinese operatives working out of this facility were surprised when the bombs dropped. They didn't know it was gonna happen. At the beginning of this entry, they said, "We were given no warning prior to the bombs touching down." Now, this entry still gives us the impression that China shot first. He says, "We were given no warning," which means that if China was going to attack, the operatives here were expecting a warning. And after having seen the attack, the director writes that he is surprised that he didn't get a warning, which tells us that he at least presumed that China was the one who attacked. But of course, he could be assuming wrong. Maybe he knew that China was planning to attack. Maybe he knew that if China did attack, they would warn him. But it's possible that someone else attacked instead. In the next one, security procedures. Facility security procedures. Number 1, all personnel should openly display a facility ID badge at all times. Failure to do so will be met with deadly force. Oh, that explains the hostile protectrons. Number 2, no unauthorized entry/exit from this facility without direct written consent from the director. Any unscheduled access to the facility entrance will be met with deadly force. This includes base personnel without explicit permission to exit or enter the facility. Number 3, all personnel are subject to search of their person and personal effects at all times. Possession of any unauthorized contraband will result in application of deadly force. Wow, don't make a mistake while working with the Chinese. And number 4, if possible, detain and interrogate subjects before applying deadly force in order to obtain any relevant counterintelligence. Interrogation should last no more than 12 hours before subject termination. What? Oh no, were they torturing and interrogating people here too? Oh God, I hope we don't find evidence of that. In the final one, shipment status. Shipment status, arsenal resupply. Item type 93 assault rifle, quantity 75 status delayed indefinitely. And what it looks like, that's the status for most of these. 556 ammunition, 24 round magazines. Stealth armor delayed indefinitely. Oh, that's a bummer. Item officer's sword, quantity 30, arrived 3. Well, at least they got some of them. Sadly, 27 others were delayed indefinitely. Well, we found one in this room. I wonder if we'll find the other 2. Backing out of this terminal, we can punch the button on the wall. Oh, that's what that does. Well, I should have punched that at the beginning. Heading out, we can ready our 44. With my hunting rifle and shotgun broken, this is sadly all I've got except for my hatchet. We find some fusion cells on a rolling cart nearby. Moving to the southern side, we can open the southern door. And we can hear more Liberators crawling around down there. Oh, rad roach. After looting some scrap from a tool chest, we find a first aid kit in the corner by some railing, and that's it for this level. So, weapon drawn, we can back out of this room and head down the staircase to level 2. At the bottom, we see more Liberator drones walking around. We can try to sneak by them by crawling through a doorway to the east. This leads us to the room connected to the top one by that pipe. We find a noisy generator down here, a toolbox with scrap inside, and nearby a wooden crate. But as we pick it, we get attacked by a Liberator. That one down. Looks like there's another somewhere. Where is he? Well, he can't seem to find us, so back into the generator room, we can finish picking the wooden crate. We find some scrap and explosives inside. Looks like whatever found us has lost the scent. So, heading west towards the staircase, we can cross the hall and open the door on the western side. Here we find destroyed Liberators. Has someone been here? Oh, not destroyed. They were just asleep. looks like we found a shower and bathroom. We can pass out of the shower to the bathroom through a broken wall to the south. Opening each of the stall doors, we find a chem cooler in the last one. The door is blocked, but we can leave this bathroom through a hole in the wall to the south. This leads us out to a hallway. We see a couple of paths before us. We could turn right, or we can move back out into the larger room to the east. We'll move into the larger room for now. In the middle of this room, we see lots of consoles, but we can't interact with any of them, though we do find one tool case on one with scrap and caps inside. Moving south, we find a hallway going deeper into the facility. There's a metal box nearby. Oh, and we get attacked. These Liberators came up the stairs. We can loot some 38 rounds on a nearby shelf, as well as a tool case, and then we can head back into this room where we sought shelter a moment ago. Looks like a bunk room. Oh! What's that? Gah! These Liberators aren't very tough, but doggone it, they're annoying. We find ourselves by the bathrooms again. Looks like this door we saw earlier just leads back to the bunk room we found from the opposite side. And there's a staircase leading down here too. Okay, so we understand this top floor now. There are 2 staircases leading down. Before we take either, we'll finish exploring the bunk room. We see skeletons wearing lab coats. And we find Chinese flags. If they were wearing lab coats, this must have been more than just an intelligence bunker. Perhaps they were conducting experiments here. Turning around, we can loot some grape mentats in one of the lockers. Turning around again, we see a hallway that's blocked off, but we do find a first aid kit on a wall. And towards the eastern end, we find a couple of footlockers, one of which is locked with an easy lock. We can pick this sucker. The final bed to the east has another skeleton in a lab coat, and he's reaching for a first aid kit under his bed. Now, to go downstairs. We'll go down the southeastern staircase. At the bottom, we find a hallway that goes west and wraps around to the north. There is a door behind us to the east, and this leads to a lab. This must be where they, quote, interrogated people they captured. Employees who lingered in the wrong areas, explored where they shouldn't have explored, or failed to carry the proper identification. We find 2 chemistry stations here, great for scrapping our junk. There's a full human skeleton on the table in the middle of the room, and on this table we find a plan for a chemistry workbench, which is not exactly rare in Fallout 76. I've already collected 4 of them by this level. We find stretchers with restraints on them nearby, and some mentats on a rolling table. There are x-rays on the walls. They were clearly doing something to these poor people, but I wonder exactly what kind of torture it was. In the southeastern corner, we find another Chinese flag and some strange device. Looks like a protective tank for handling radioactive material. On a shelf next to this is a first aid kit, a blood pack, and more scrap and junk. And in a cart nearby, we find 2 full human skeletons. Now, peering out a window, we see a room to the north. Opening the door, this looks like the primary research floor. But before we head that way, let's turn around, retrace our steps, and go back to the hallway by the staircase. There were a few other rooms this way I wanted to explore first. After looting some scrap on some of the shelves, we find a big double door to the south. But then something catches us. What was it? A protectron through the double doors. I wonder why that one then isn't hostile. We'll figure that out in a minute. For now, we can head through the double doors to the south. Looks like this is some sort of engineering room. We find chems in a mirror above the sink, a fridge door filled with flasks. Heading down to the factory floor, we find yet another chemistry station. And here we find a stealth lab terminal on a table. Fujinia Intelligence Base Stealth Research and Development Laboratory. Hail the People's Republic. We find the same note we found in the other terminal. Notice to all personnel. We can skip this then. This leaves one remaining note. Stealth Lab Director Summary. Director Summary, Stealth Research and Development Laboratory Progress Report. As you know, our efforts over the past year have been focused on developing new cloaking and stealth-based technologies, as well as technologies to support covert field operatives deployed across Appalachia. It goes without saying that cloaking technology is very advanced, and components are limited in supply in this primitive part of the world. Wow. Thanks for the condescension, China. we were unable to secure a stealth armor suit due to demand from Anchorage and other various war efforts. That's a reference to the Operation Anchorage DLC of Fallout 3, the events of which I did a video about that you can watch here. We also have yet to receive the suit schematics we requested to advance our research. Oh, bummer. Guess we won't find a stealth suit here. Furthermore, we do not exactly have access to the best and brightest minds of the Republic down here. Our last reinforcements came over 3 months ago, and half of them were killed by the security team because they didn't have the proper credentials. Oh, wow. So they were killing their own people from China. What bureaucratic incompetence. While we have technically failed our yearly targets, it could be suggested that the targets were unrealistic due to lack of support and technological barriers. Additionally, the constraints of working in a covert capacity dramatically limit the type of testing that can be done, as well as the hours they can be done in order to remain undetected. Regardless, Chief Scientist Quao will accept full responsibility for this failure and any and all repercussions due for his actions. He and he alone is responsible for failing to thrive in the aforementioned circumstances. Myself and the rest of the team are ready to move past this shameful leadership and excel on all future assignments. Hail the People's Republic! Well, I mean, it's good to know that it's not just pre-war America in the Fallout universe that was bureaucratic and filled with cutthroat, amoral people. Way to shirk responsibility, guy. Backing out, we can move west. We find a box of 45 rounds on a pushcart. Then we can loot the Protectron we shot earlier. There's a long table in the middle of this room, and here we find yet another plan for a chemistry workbench. They really want to make sure that you can craft this at your camp. On the other side of the table by the staircase to the north, we find an end-of-dungeon steamer trunk, and inside, plans for the single-action revolver Ivory Grip. I'm really excited to be able to craft this in my weapons workbench later. Heading up the stairs from this lower level, there's a first aid kit on a shelf by the door where we entered that I missed earlier, and a toolbox at the top of a nearby shelf that in my game had plans for a bathroom toilet. Moving into the room to the north, we find 2 fusion generators side by side, but only one of which has a fusion core. Behind the generators is a waste disposal system terminal. Food waste disposal system diagnostics, current system capacity 18%, disposal rate 0.04 TPM, emissions analysis, CH4 0.048 tons, CO2 0.101 tons. We find an option to enter system command, but it's unavailable. And if we try to select it, error. System command entry unavailable. Waste disposal system adjustments require system password. Now we'll turn this entire place upside down, but we never find a waste disposal system password. So I don't know if this terminal is working as intended, if I missed something, or if access to this password is level or quest dependent. I'm not sure. At any rate, moving on, we find a toolbox and a cabinet with some Excel and buff tats. Excel is not as rare a chem in this game, I've discovered. I've already found quite a few pieces. With that, we can pass through the double doors to the east, back to the main hallway. From here, we can round the corner to the north, where we found that non-hostile Protectron. Wonder what he's doing here. We don't find an option to hack him. Moving north, we see a barrier made from filing cabinets, next to which is a chem cooler by a console. Here we find the skeleton of a scientist slumped over one of the cabinets. The hallway then leads to a larger room to the east. This room goes north, or we can go through a door to the south. Inside the room, we find another terminal. It's locked with an easy lock. After hacking it, we find the same base-wide notice, the same security procedures and shipment status, but one new entry, Protectron control. Here, we can activate the nearby Protectron.
Powering up. Protectron on duty.
And he walks off to clear the place of Liberator drones. At the very end, we find an option to unlock the security door. This opens up a big security cage in this room, wherein we find a lot of goods, including the second Chinese officer's sword that we read about in the terminal. We can loot an ammo box, a stack of pre-war money, a frag grenade, and here we find a short 10mm submachine gun. This, at least in my gameplay, was pretty rare. It was the only submachine gun I found in over 9 hours of playing. But it does require level 10. We'll make good use of this sucker later. Opening the door, we hear the Protectron having fun in a nearby room. Let's see if we can help him out. Creeping north down the hallway, we see a computer room to the west and some sort of intelligence floor to the east. Heading inside, we can try to help our Protectron. With the room clear and our Protectron safe, we can head back to explore that computer room. All of the terminals are busted, but on the wall, we find a map of Appalachia. And it looks like certain points of interest are marked with pushpins. But what exactly are these? Inspecting closer, we see that we can interact with them. Morgantown. That's the town where we're at. It's marked in red. Nearby, marked in yellow, Mama Dolce's food processing, where we are now. Just north of us is Missile Silo Bravo. And if we try to view it, its location is added to our map. We recall after reading the Overseer's terminal entries in Vault 76 that I covered in my video on Vault 76 that you can watch here. Her primary mission was to track down each of these missile silos and secure access to them for Vault Tech. By discovering this map, we get all of their locations marked on our map. This will greatly aid us when trying to track down the Overseer. We also walk away with a few other interesting locations, including Grafton, Watoga, the White Spring Resort, which is the Greenbrier, Charleston, and Beckley. Not a bad find. The rest of this room, however, is disappointing. We only find one red toolbox, locked with an easy lock and then some diluted radaway in a filing cabinet. We can head out a door to the north. Before opening the main intelligence floor, we find a closet door to the west. Oh, got him. And in a corner, we find yet another red toolbox. But that's it for this closet. Heading out and turning right, we find that other staircase leading back to the second floor. So that completes a complete loop of the third floor. But we still have a few rooms down here to explore. We find a door to the north. Let's loot this Nuka-Cola machine first. Going through the door, we see that this was a kitchen. Behind the counter, we can loot some sugar, and we find some cotton candy bites on a shelf. There are dispensers behind us, but we don't find much here. So heading out, we can enter the last room, the main intelligence floor. Here on a white console overlooking conveyor belts, we find the launch bay terminal. After hacking it, Liberator launch bay. We find the same base-wide notice, but then 2 new entries. The first, Launch Bay Director Summary, Liberator Production Roadmap. Over the past year, the staffs of this facility have been dedicated to revamping the inferior Liberator prototype military infiltration and attack robot. The focus of this effort has been to address the following issues with the previous iteration. The small profile of the prototype model led to the combatants not taking the deadly capacity of this attack robot seriously. We have offset this shortcoming with an intimidating paint job, as well as implementing an inspirational dialogue protocol. This will strike fear in the hearts of enemy combatants and be an effective motivational tool for our forces as well. Well, at least they understood their own robot's limitations. But wait a minute. Does that mean that this factory is responsible for producing all of the Liberator robots we find in Appalachia? Is it still producing robots to this day? The prototype model had issues with spontaneous detonation of its capture avoidance systems. These issues have been resolved with the Mark 0 through 5 models. The prototype also had questionable combat effectiveness, mainly due to the low-level laser output that had a tendency to maim instead of kill. We have outfitted the current model range with a high-powered ranged laser as well as a spinning blade for melee altercations that should address these shortcomings. Finally, we had planned for the current model range to deploy a stationary turret on any surface as a direct response to the reports of inaccurate laser fire from the prototype. This has proved to be challenging, however, and will be put on hold until we begin work on the Mark 6. Oh, so they had plans for a Mark 6. I wonder if they built any. Regardless, we strongly feel that this new Liberator product line will serve as a successful vanguard force in the impending invasion. Our hope is that this summary will provide visibility into our operations and secure funding for our next round of covert field testing in the Appalachia region. Hail the People's Republic! And in the final one, we can unlock a nearby security door. We don't immediately see this door, but I'm sure we'll find it later. So Mama Dolces was a front for a Chinese intelligence bunker that not only kidnapped and interrogated people, even their own employees, even their own fellow Chinese, but also produced the Liberator robots. On this lower level, we do indeed find 2 silos, disguised as smokestacks, leading all the way through the facility outside where we can still see the sky. It is from these pipes that the Liberators likely climbed to invade and infest Appalachia. We can leave this lower level by going up a staircase where we find a door that leads back to their interrogation room where we found all the human bones. Okay, so that's done a big loop. Nearby, we find some more diluted radaway on a shelf, and we find the security door that we opened from the terminal against a wall to the west. Inside, we find another first aid kit, an ammo box, a frag mine, and the 3rd Chinese officer's sword, as well as some medics and some power armor. Look at that! This was my first power armor frame. Now, I was too low level to wear the T-45 pieces of power armor that came with this frame. I had to be level 25 before I could wear them, but I could still loot the power armor frame by first taking the armor off of the frame, putting it in my inventory, and then entering the frame. Wearing a power armor frame in Fallout 76 makes you immune to falling damage and raises your strength by 10. There's also an inventory management trick you can do with one of these suckers. After you own the frame, you can put the power armor back on the frame and then put the frame in your inventory. And that way you're carrying just the weight of the frame without also carrying the weight of the attached power armor pieces. I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but for now, this trick works. And it looks like by stepping in the power armor frame, we caused all of the Liberator robots in the facility to respawn. I didn't want to waste any more of my ammunition, so pulling out our hatchet, we can hack our way out of this secret Chinese bunker. And that is the full story of the Mama Dolces food processing plant in Morgantown of Appalachia. Did you complete the event at Mama Dolces when you played the beta? Did you find the secret Chinese bunker beneath it? And did you walk away with the power armor frame? Or did you find that another vault dweller had found it first? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I captured this footage during a recent live stream of Fallout 76. I had a blast and the viewers did too. I stream live right here on YouTube, so if you don't want to miss my next live stream, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on Twitter so that you don't miss my next announcement. I have plenty of more Fallout 76 lore videos planned, but since I'm also live streaming, my lore video production may be a bit slower than usual. I have a shirt shop with completely unique shirts that you can't find anywhere else. My shirts come in a variety of men's, women's, and children's sizes, and in a wide array of colors. You can find my designs on other products too, like smartphone cases, pillows, posters, mugs, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon with more brand new lore videos and more Fallout 76 live streams.